Welcome to Food Talk, where we talk about food, fishing, farming, and all things East End. And today my guests are Noah Schwartz, the chef owner of Noah's Restaurant in Greenport, and Jeannie Calderale. Jeannie, you're the vice president of the Edible School Garden. You're also associated with Slow Food East End. You're a board member. Let's tell our viewers, thank you for coming down from the North Fork, our first North Fork guests. Tell our viewers about both of those groups, Slow Fork East End and Edible School Gardens, and your involvement with them.
I first came to meet up with Slow Food East End when they approached the Greenport school about starting a school garden, and I helped to write the grant, and it was the first garden on the North Fork. And from that experience, I came in contact with Edible School Gardens. So that's where the connection began. At that time, there were members of Edible School Garden were also on the board of Slow Food East End. Slow Food East End now does fundraising to support a lot of the programs in Edible School Gardens. Programs like our Master Farmers. We raise funds to pay a stipend for 3 master farmers, and we provide mini grants. We paid over $10,000 in mini grants this year. And we also have a Chefs to School program.
Wow.
So that's a little bit about those two.
And how many Edible School Gardens are there on the East End?
Yeah, there's about 27 now on North and South Forks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And there's also a connection in today's food because is it your nephew raises
yeah, my nephew has
pigs
a farm.
He's a farmer.
Yeah. Deep Roots Farm in Southold, and he raises pigs and chickens and vegetables.
That's awesome.
And I think we'll be tasting a little bit of some of that today.
I hope so. Now, Noah, where'd you go to culinary again?
I did the New England Culinary Institute up in Vermont.
But then you ended up out in California.
I did. I actually worked for about a year for the Culinary Institute of America out in St. Helena at their Greystone campus, where I sort of continued my education and completed my externship for New England Culinary Institute. So it was cool. I kind of got a little bit of experience from both schools, and I really enjoyed my time out there. After the externship was done, I stayed on for about a half a year more, worked with some really great chefs in the Napa Valley area.
That's cool. So here's the thing, you have one of the great restaurants on the North Fork. Probably East Enders, if they're not going to Riverhead, or South Forkers, if they're not going to Riverhead, they're going to go to Greenport. Your restaurant's right on Front Street. It's right there. It's a wonderful restaurant. But how did you end up on the North Fork, coming from? Because it looked like you were building a life with your wife Sunita, and you ended up back in Long Island.
We were pretty established out in the Sonoma Valley area. We actually met working at a restaurant called The Girl and the Fig right in downtown Sonoma. And we decided at some point that we'd like to go into business for myself. I've always been into a bit of an entrepreneur, and my parents had relocated, or were slowly in the process of relocating out to Southold and to the North Fork. And so I kind of discovered Greenport and the area through that process, coming back to visit in the summertime and getting to know the area a little bit, and decided it'd be a good place to try something on our own.
And Sunita's no slouch. She's the wine director at Noah's, so this is truly a labor of love.
Yeah, she has a lot of experience in the wine industry, having worked at several Napa and Sonoma Valley wineries, including Ravenswood, where we got married.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good for you. There's an event coming up on April 2nd that I've already bought tickets for.
All right.
The movable feast that benefits the Josh Levine Memorial Fund. Tell us a little bit about that fund and what people could expect on April 2nd from 4 to 7?
From 4 to 7,
Where's it held again?
At Dodds and Eater in Sag Harbor.
Beautiful.
Yes, great venue. I'll talk about that a little bit later. The Josh Levine Memorial Foundation came about because of a young farmer, Josh Levine, who suffered a loss, and the family was approached by Slow Food East End, and Slow Food East End wanted to do something for Josh's family. And instead, the Levines, Myron and Sue, said, why don't you do something for school gardens? Because that's what Josh was all about. He was about teaching kids about growing fresh food for themselves, knowing what fresh food was like, knowing what growing was like, and he wanted to raise his family out here. So some of these things were really important to him. So with that, Slow Food partnered with what became the Josh Levine Memorial Foundation and created this event. In the earlier days, it was like 7 years ago, I think this is the 7th one. So in the earlier days, they had the cocktail party at Bay Street Theater, and then they would walk over to the American Hotel and have the dinner there. It became so crowded, even at Bay Street Theater, that Slow Food decided they needed to find a new venue. And also, people were really enjoying the cocktail hour, and so they reluctantly left, and they were full already before they even left.
Right.
And then they were going to enjoy another great dinner.
Right.
So we've decided to expand the cocktail hour and bring in a lot more chefs, and there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 21 chefs, so that's 21 stations, food stations that are set up in this great venue, plus beer and wine and music, and there's a silent auction that Myron and Sue and Megan Schmidt put together, and they do a fantastic job. So it's a very lively, fun atmosphere, fantastic food. You get to meet a lot of the chefs there. We'll have the master farmers there. People can talk with the master farmers. So, that's pretty much the event itself. There's music, there's dancing, and it's a very festive atmosphere.
Because I got two questions. So tell our viewers what slow food really means, because we throw around the name slow food, slow food. What does that mean, slow food?
Yeah, essentially it's the opposite of fast food. So slow food originated in Italy. Carlo Petrini heard that he was, I forget, a journalist, I believe, and he heard that a McDonald's wanted to come in to Rome, and so he organized a protest. So pots and pans, and people are out there with their pasta pots and saying, no McDonald's. And from that was born this organization, Slow Food. And so it's an international organization of over 150 countries. There are over 100,000 members now in Slow Food. Now, we also have a Slow Food USA. Their office is in Brooklyn. They're very much into school gardens. They have fantastic school garden programs that you can download off of their site. From there, our very local chapter is Slow Food East End. So that consists of the towns Riverhead and East. And those are the areas that Slow Food raises funds for those schools. So it's also the East End schools. Slow Food supports eating food that is in season, raised locally, is sustainable, it's good for you, it's good for the planet. They also support and have been putting a lot of energy into teaching kids about these things and teaching kids about how food is grown and what it really tastes like.
Right.
And so with that, we have the Edible School Garden Group, and 27 schools have school gardens or are in the process of.
Now, this is kind of a
school
dumb
gardens.
question, but would you say that most of those gardens are all growing organic?
Oh, definitely.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Because organic food tastes better, folks. Just
Yeah.
in case you wonder what the whole organic, you can taste the difference in a carrot, let's say.
Yeah.
It's discernible in a carrot, for
Absolutely.
instance,
Yeah.
or an apple. You, sir, just celebrated 7 years at Noah's, is that correct?
We did, yeah. We're going into our 8th season here.
Before we went on, ladies and gentlemen, this guy went on Beat Bobby Flay, and he kind of got, in my opinion, he got burned. He won't necessarily say that, but we've got a top flight chef here who, You got burned, man. You lost to a quesadilla. That's not right.
Well, I lost to a quesadilla, but it was a good experience. I had a good time doing it. It was a learning process, and so quote-unquote reality TV is not always exactly that, but it was enjoyable. I got my nerves shaking a little bit. I got to run around a little bit hectic, something I never thought I would actually sign up for, but...
You're in a safe zone. It's very, very safe here. This can be healing. Speaking about healing, dude, you got a cut on you. I don't know if we can zero in on this, but this is not a cut. It looks like a cut.
That's a chef burn.
It's a chef burn.
That's a burn.
I noticed it right away. It was like a self-inflicted knife wound.
That's what happens when you have a busy Saturday night and you're not careful grabbing a hot saute pan out of the oven and you hit the top rack.
Real chef right here. Speaking of real chefs, we're going to do something. We're going to play Food Lover Companion Roulette. This is a game where I pick an obscure term. You might get this one, bro.
I'm a fan of the book.
Well, it's a good book. We use it so that we can spell words properly, what to capitalize, what not to. But tell me, sir, what is longan?
Longan. Is longan a cheese?
So longan
to the healing?
is commonly associated with
Longan.
lychee, which is similar in structure but more aromatic and taste. It is native to
Longan.
southern Asia. This fully ripened, freshly harvested fruit has a bark-like shell.
See, I would have gotten rambutan.
Right, see that?
But
It makes the fruit easy to peel, and by squeezing the pulp out as if one is cracking a sunflower seed.
I like those fruits.
Noah, what have you prepared? What have you brought to prepare?
Today we actually brought two dishes, being that we're with Slow Food and we're filming locally here and sort of to promote what the restaurant that we own is all about. We're doing locally sourced dishes, which in the end of February is not the easiest feat on either the North or South Fork. But we've got a local pecanic bay scallop ceviche. Ooh. Bay scallops being one of our favorite ingredients. They have a short season and they're a real delicacy that's pretty much local to this area of Long Island, which I like to feature. We also have a roasted Satter Farms Brussels sprout dish, and that's the dish that we're garnishing with Deep Roots Farm Applewood smoked bacon.
Why don't we switch seats? Listen, I put your burner on. It's on high right now, so careful.
So we'll start with the bay scallop ceviche. The ceviche has local cherry tomatoes, which are actually grown in Flora's greenhouse in Mattatuck, and they managed to produce a small crop of tomatoes all year long. They're an heirloom cherry varietal. Also has some cucumber, a little bit of chili, and grapefruit to sort of cure it. I like to finish it up with just a little bit of this agrumato lemon oil. Adds a nice flavor and a little bit more acidity to it. And then to sort of scoop and enjoy it with, we did a local Long Island white potato chip. The potatoes come from Latham's Farm, which is out in Orient, not too far past the restaurant.
Did you make these chips?
I made these chips. That's correct.
Wow.
So here, why don't we start by enjoying some of this?
Oh, lovely. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
I'm going to be polite and wait for Jeannie. Meanwhile, we're enjoying Cafe Bustelo espresso,
Thank you. You're very welcome.
which is waking me up.
Steve,
Okay, please, yeah.
stick that over there.
Sure. All right, so shall we?
Sure, please. On top, just for a little more color, a little added flavor, we have a micro beet green, also sometimes referred to as bull's blood, and that's also locally grown up on the North Fork in Cutchogue by a micro greenhouse called Copert Cress.
Is this on the menu?
This is on and off the menu. When scallops are not always available all the time, but when we get them, this is something that we often prepare.
All right, just to say it, we're not supposed to really chow on this set. I have to have another bite. This is insane.
Yeah, it's a good combination of flavors. It's got a lot going on. It's by no means, it's definitely a little bit complex, but I think that the scallops also shine through as the main flavor in the dish.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
This is fantastic.
Yep.
It's got sweet, it's got hot, it's got salt, it's got
It's got a little
texture.
bit of actually North Fork locally produced sea salt by a friend of ours who does salt up there.
They're making it easier to be slow food these days.
Sure.
Certainly in our area.
Yeah.
I mean, to have the tomatoes grown in a greenhouse all winter.
In a hothouse,
that's
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep. And things cellar well, so we're serving local beets. Brussels can survive a few frosts. So
good chip, too.
Thanks.
It's a good chip. Wow. Well,
So,
cook
the
it up,
Brussels
Chef, and
sprouts?
tell us about what you brought down. That burner may be hot.
sure. So for the Brussels sprouts, we actually roast them in like a 450-degree oven. So we already have a little bit of char in them. We toss them in a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper, just to sort of develop some flavors and also make the pickup that we do at the restaurant, which this is currently on the menu, simpler, a little bit faster for us to get out of the kitchen. They take about 20 minutes to get to this stage, which is tender, blistered, a little bit caramelized. And then on the pickup, we add them to a nice hot pan like this. And let that heat up for just a minute. And what we're going to do is after this pan is nice and hot and the Brussels have reached temperature, we're going to finish it with a honey sriracha glaze and a little bit of the applewood smoked bacon.
Now tell us about these ingredients.
Yeah,
because we were
so
talking off-site.
we also have the North Fork local sea salt and the sriracha and honey glaze we're lucky enough to have produced with sriracha, which we buy from a company in California that does a great sriracha, but the honey is produced from my mom's backyard apiary. She keeps about 4 or 5 hives back there. We're lucky enough to get super local honey.
Wow.
She does a really nice job with it, actually. I've tried a lot of different local honeys, and not to pick favorites, but hers is up there. So these look like they're nice and hot. The pan's getting nice and hot, which is important because we needed to take the glaze down just a little bit to coat the Brussels. The sriracha glaze is 3 parts honey, 1 part sriracha, and 1 part lime juice to add a little bit of acidity to it. So sort of like such. Going to bring that down a little bit. It only takes a minute. It smells delicious already. A little bit of North Fork sea salt, a couple spins of this fresh cracked black pepper. I always find the fresh cracked adds the best flavor to a dish.
You know, folks, at home, you can use a sea salt and a really good, peppercorn, and it really enhances, like, common food,
Oh, yeah.
As a chef, we're all about building and developing flavors, so we season as we go. The Brussels are pre-seasoned before they roasted, but we season one more time as we pick it up, and things tend to absorb and lose a little bit of their seasoning as they sit for a little bit. So you always want to make sure you re-season, and chef pro tip is always try your food, taste it, make sure it's seasoned properly.
Right. Thank you for that, because a lot of chefs just forget that, and they forget to add salt. Salt's a flavor enhancer.
It is, it is. And so now you can kind of see the Brussels are sort of absorbing some of that glaze and getting coated, and this pan's getting pretty hot to take that down.
Yeah,
and,
that's my fault.
Oh, that's perfect. And then we have these nice square little bowl type dishes that we're going to use to plate this in. Give that one more toss in the glaze as it comes down to a nice thickness. And there we go, we're ready to plate. Brussels are pretty hearty, so it's not a huge portion. And here we are. We're going to just finish that up with a little bit of Deep Roots Farm applewood smoked bacon here over the top. Extra crispy, adds nice
Jeannie's
texture.
nephew's farm, right?
That is, yeah. And it's located, honestly, what am I going to say, like
Main Road, Southold?
Main Road, Southold, maybe 2 miles from the restaurant. It really doesn't get
Yeah.
more local for us than
Local.
that. Just a little bit of thinly sliced scallions as a garnish on top. Adds a little bit of color, a little bit of texture. And there you have it, guys. This is our
Beautiful.
sriracha honey glazed Brussels. Jeannie, if you would.
Thank you.
Gene, I'll give you a
All right.
liner. No,
Thank
for
you, sir.
All right, so we gotta give it a try.
Chef, always keeping your station clean.
Oh, it's delicious.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a nice combination of flavors. It's got kind of like the ceviche. I like
was
to
just
hit
gonna
all
say.
notes.
I was
It's
just
sweet,
gonna say.
little crunch. I always enjoy texture, which is why we add the potato chips to the ceviche. I always like contrast also in temperature. So the bacon's cold but crispy, but goes well with the really warm Brussels. And yeah, contrasting flavors and textures is kind of what Chef Profile is all about. I like
Well
that.
done, sir. Well done,
Really
chef.
nice.
Really,
Very
really
much.
great.
I'm glad you guys
Fantastic.
enjoy.
Jeannie, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Okay.
5 people in the history of the world that you would invite to dinner, and maybe Noah's gonna cook, but
Yay.
right?
Yeah.
Who would you have?
Hippocrates.
Whoa, I love bringing
Let
in.
food be thy medicine. Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, these are, you're like two
She's
for two.
funny. You've got to have, someone lively
Right.
in there, but she's also kind and she's courageous. Alec Baldwin for his use of hyperbole. Let's see, Keith Richards. He's like a Timex.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, she's nuts. This is a wild group.
That is a wild group, but 3 out
I
of
think Hippocrates and Keith Richards are going to get along.
they might.
They might.
You know what? But 3 out of this group are vegans, so I would have to serve, a vegan meal for them.
I can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
So wait a minute. We have Hippocrates.
So who do I have?
Ellen. Keith
Richards, Alec Baldwin,
Right.
and
Wait a second. Before you do the 5th, who are the vegetarians in that group?
Hippocrates,
Yeah.
Ellen,
Yeah.
and Alec. Alec Baldwin, I believe, is also.
All right. Of course, Keith would not be a vegetarian. No.
I don't believe so.
I just should have asked you that. That's what. Okay.
He's like, you give him a scotch and he's
Right,
probably
right.
good. The man is unbelievable, though.
Oh,
he
is
just keeps
unbelievable.
going. He's like beef jerky.
He
You
looks like
can
beef
preserve him, and
Who's your 5th?
I'm looking at him.
Noah.
We've got to have.
Oh,
someone.
nice.
Yeah,
That's the first time I've ever had a guest as one of the 5.
yeah.
But dude, you can't.
Add some creative.
Because he can do
flair to the
some good
mix.
vegan.
I actually,
Okay.
I did work in the city as a vegan chef for a time, so I
What
have
restaurant was
experience. It was a place called Blanche's Organics, which ironically was a chain of juice bars serving vegan lunches, and we were based out of the meatpacking district.
I'll be darned. Before it was
Oh
hip.
yeah,
Way before it was
Way
hip.
before it was
Yeah.
hip.
yeah.
Who are your 5 people?
I clearly did not give this as much thought as Jeannie. My 5 people I'd like to invite to dinner with me, thinking David Chang for his fun, got a lot of creative chef stuff going on. I'm a fan of his blog and his magazine, and I think he'd be a good time. And then I think he'd get along great with Bob Marley, so we'd have him there
Very
just for
good.
some of his cultural input. Also a big fan of his music, but I think it'd be fun to get James Beard in the building, having cooked at the Beard House just this year and in previous years. I had the honor of using the man's bathroom, which is on the 2nd floor,
Yes,
which
I've been
legend
there.
has it, sparkling wine flowed freely out of the shower head. So
love it.
just to keep it interesting,
Yeah.
I think that'd make for a good food experience. Maybe Anthony Bourdain for his travels and interest in multicultural food.
So you definitely have a food focus on your.
Yeah, sure. If I'm
right,
preparing
okay.
a meal, it's
Yeah.
going to be a bunch of chefs, and
Right.
we could talk shop and
Right.
have a good food experience. Yeah.
So you got Bourdain, James Beard,
Yep. Chang.
David Chang. Who is
Bob Marley.
Oh, Bob
Bob
Marley.
Marley.
Yeah.
Dude, I think you owe me one.
I think I do. I think you'd have to be there.
that ain't right. That's not right, but I'll take it. That's
All
a
right.
good group. That is a good group.
I think you'd have fun.
There'll be some good
Oh, my
food there
goodness,
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Jeannie, are you originally from the North Fork? How'd you get out to the East End?
My grandmother had a summer house, a summer cottage, and we would come out in the summers and spend a lot of time, and we loved it. My husband was from the Mid-Hudson River area, but he taught in Shore and Wading River, and we both liked it out here, so that's where we decided to settle and, raise our family.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
beautiful. Don't regret it for a minute.
And Chef, if you had to talk about your influences or your influencers, who would they be?
Well, definitely my parents helped me as I, was through this process of trying to figure out what it was I'd like to do with myself, and they encouraged me to explore the food industry, which I showed an interest at in a young age. So they definitely helped towards, push me gently in the right direction with their great parenting skills and encouragement. Also, a great chef who I had the honor of working for, who became a mentor to me in the Sonoma County area, named Mark Stark. He's got several restaurants that I had the pleasure of working through the kitchens and working my way up to chef as one of them. Really showed me how to run a tight ship and be a great leader.
This is a tough question for a chef. Name one item, and this is not to be critical of your patrons, but there's always an item on your menu that you can't take off. And sometimes chefs need to take menu items off, but you also need to make money because this is a business. This isn't just come on over
This
for
is
dinner.
all true.
So what's the one menu item that you just kind of can't, and there may be more than one, those are a few of them, let's say. What are the ones you just kind of can't take off?
For us at the restaurant, there's, we are a seafood-inspired small plate restaurant, but that doesn't mean we don't cover a broad spectrum of other ingredients. So there's one dish that we kind of put on the beginning just to play with, and it caught steam, and I've tried to take it off, and it was like revolt. So that dish is a Crescent Farm duck barbecue. We do a nice barbecue sauce in-house. We use duck confit legs as the meat, which we pull and
I've
then
had
form
that
in the
dish.
sauce. And it's served over a smoked cheddar polenta with Cabot or Grafton smoked cheddar. It's a great
remember that
combination
dish.
of flavors because the barbecue sauce has got its own sort of chipotle. I use a pomegranate molasses in it, so it's sweet, tart, spicy, and the smokiness and cheesiness of that polenta. It's a great dish. I can't say I'm sick of it, but
Are you sick of making it? Yeah, it's just like anything else.
Yeah, I can't count the thousands and thousands of plates of it I've put out.
What about an entree?
But everybody loves it, and I got to say it's still delicious.
Right.
As an entree, I've had a Kobe beef burger on the menu since I opened, and it's a great burger. We sell a lot of it, so there's a lot of people out there who aren't sure what they want to do, don't go for all the creativeness on the menu, so the burger's a go-to.
Right.
But, it's also not the easiest thing to put out. There's a multitude of combinations that can go on with a burger, from temperature to cheese to lettuce to no lettuce to condiments.
Right.
And, it's one of those things we got to stick with, but it's, you think it's easy, but it's got a lot going on.
Well, we got good news and bad news. The show is coming to an end, but the good news is we get the chow on this ceviche after it's over.
yes.
I want to thank you both for making the trip down. You've been tremendous guests. And as we say here on the show, cógelo suave, pero cógelo. Take it easy, but take it. Thanks for having a good food talk.
Great to be here.
That was easy.